Welcome to Kadam, the Small Steps podcast where we try to showcase individual perspectives of recent graduates about different pathways of life. I am Hemansh Bhatia,
And I'm Arjit Singh.
and together we'll try to uncover what it means to have a traditional career.
Thank you to everyone who's given us feedback over the past few episodes. And thank you to everyone who's been sharing this podcast with their friends and family. We hope that you will continue to share amongst anybody that you think can be helped throughout this podcast. Even more importantly, World Mental Health Day is right around the corner, and we thought we'd invite a psychologist and ask those questions we all have on our minds. So let's start the show.
Today, we're bringing on someone to hopefully get an insight into the story of the other side of the therapist room. We have with us someone that helps people with everyday problems, including relationships, family, suicide prevention, mental health disorders, and so much more. With a master's in clinical psychology, not only does she work at Cathena Education, Mumbai, India, and help students with the mental health issues overcome daily education struggles, but she has also started her own company, Amicus Therapia, where she, with her friend, helps people live happy lives. If you ever need a friend to speak to that can give you good advice about you, your little or big life problems, we hope you have someone like her to help you out. With an expectation that we will be able to help someone greatly with this episode, let's welcome Gyanada Rasyara.
Hi, Gyanada. How are you?
Hey.
Hi Ajit.
Wel-
Hi Hemant.
Welcome
How
to
are
the
you?
show. Good.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. We really think that, this episode is going to be something that is kind of a little bit of a bridge, from what we've been doing to also getting some behind the scene action to where, you're helping people do some similar things just behind the scenes. So we wanted to bring you on and see how that would work.
I'm happy to be here, and I hope the purpose that we're trying to, deliver, it's fulfilled, because I completely understand not many know the other side of the story. I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have.
All right. Well, we've of course heard you on your Instagram lives and stories and your, on Gaza podcast and everything like that. But we just wanted to understand before we get into anything else, when and why did you want to get into psychology, right? So was it the fascination with the mind and how it worked, or was it due to, seeing personal struggles or seeing struggles in the family that you wanted to overcome?
See, the thing was that we had psychology in 11th and 12th. And at that time, it was like basics. So you don't have to go in depth of the theories and everything. So what happened was, it was kind of boring initially. But the moment we started reading about disorders and how it manifests in individuals in very varied ways, that is when it kind of, made me interested in that subject, because it's quite fascinating. You don't have anything scientific to prove it. And, there's this whole, is it a science or is it a social science or what is it? There's a big debate on that as well. So that is how I started getting interested in the subject. And eventually I pursued it after school and I took it up in college. The one interesting fact is that I had only applied in one college for clinical psychology. For the rest of the colleges, I applied for fashion designing. And then what happened, I did a proper thorough career assessment, fashion therapy, like what will happen in clinical psychology. And then I ended up going into one, and I ended up choosing clinical psychology out of the blue. And then that's how it happened, honestly. And then interest is on. It's still on. Hopefully it will be on track.
Right. But so like before 11th and 12th, of course, you had to get into this or choose your subjects, like we have to do in India. So what came to your mind when you were choosing those subjects? Did you ever think that you wanted to do this as a kid, or, were there other dreams and expectations that you had from yourself?
Honestly, I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor, and I was so fascinated with that life. But when the moment we passed 10th, and I realized that you cannot just take bio, you have physics and chemistry with that. I was like, I can't do it. Chemistry still I can manage, but not physics. I was like, okay, I'll have to give that dream up. What is the closest thing that I can be? And what is the closest thing that I can get to a hospital? That was psychology. That's how
Right.
I ended up doing that.
I guess in psychology, aren't there any doctorates for that? Like, do you aim for that? And like, did you just choosing clinical psychology? Did you receive any pushback, I guess, from your family, like, or just making that decision at the end, like you don't want to go into fashion, you want to choose this only one option for clinical psychology? Did you get any pushback? And even for starting your own company, what was going on in your mind at that point?
Honestly, I've been lucky that my family has been supporting me throughout, through thick and thin. They've never really pressurized me to do something. They have given me the free will to pursue anything I want. In fact, my father was the one who said that you should start something of your own, because the basic thing is that there's not an amazing job sector for our field. If you look at the ratio and statistics, there are very, very few psychologists per person. I think the statistics is around, I'm not sure, I might be wrong, but it's like one therapist for 3 lakh people. It's that bad. So the thing is, that is the main reason why I did not at the same time have any backlash. And people are supportive with me. They were supportive throughout my career. So I don't think so. I've not faced anything as of yet, and I hope I don't face it in future as well. It's hard, absolutely, but I've had a smooth road. I've had a smooth royal road. I didn't have any bumps as of now.
So yeah, Gyanada, that sounds really great that your family was there through thick and thin, and your dad really helped you kind of realize that it's okay to start your own career because of how less jobs are available in the industry that you're in. And that was something that I kind of was into as well. So that is why I kind of moved to the US to be able to pursue something that I wanted to do, and that wasn't really focused on a whole lot in India. Like clinical psychology definitely is something that not a whole lot of people really focus on in India. It's like, yes, people are getting into it and people have started realizing that mental health is something that's really, really important. But, for the longest time, I think people just tell you to get over it, and they don't realize that it can really, really, really have a toll on somebody's health. And especially right now that, we've had some cases that are in the news right now where, mental health has been such a huge factor. I think what you're doing and what other psychologists do in India, pushing those boundaries and making sure that at least you are available for when people need you is great. So thank you so much for that. And we also hear your dog in the back. That's going to be a therapy always as well. Dog therapy is always going to be real. And we hope that, anybody who doesn't have a dog can go out there and just, even if they can't adopt one, they can just at least go and pet some at one of those adoption centers. So that's great as well. Okay, so next question that I kind of had in mind was, I understand that you have kind of learned throughout, let's say, your education and life as well, that it's important to be happy, and that often you think straight and you help people think straight. But we understand that everybody is human, and you also might have times where you don't feel your best. What do you think your strengths and weaknesses are as a psychologist? And do you ever yourself see a psychologist as well? And how do you go with that?
That is right, that you expect to be happy all the time, but that is something which is absolutely not going to happen, because we are humans and we will feel many emotions in a single day. We'll not be fixated at one itself. Like, I'll be waking up with a happy mood in the morning, and by the time I'm going to bed, I might be sad and I might be not happy at all. So emotions are something which is absolutely majorly not in our control. But one thing that I really push people to do, irrespective of they are coming to therapy or not, is that more than being happy all the time, the most important thing is you to be aware of your emotion, irrespective of what it is and why it is. Because if you understand what your cause of emotion or root cause of emotion is, you'll be able to manage it or you'll be able to embrace it in a better way. You'll be indulging in a positive coping styles rather than something which is harmful for you and others around you. So instead of fixating at one emotion, I always tell people to feel what you are feeling, but look at it as a question. Ask your feelings, why is it there? Or what is it that is causing the so and so feeling? That is how I approach people, and I tell people to do so, because that will in future help you, look at the problem in a more analytical and practical way.
I think self-help has become a giant industry in the last few years. And do you think it can ever truly replace therapy? And why do people practicing self-help as it is now fail to achieve the results they are looking for?
See, self-help is absolutely a good thing, but it will never replace therapy. Because, see, self-help is as much useful as you're aware of it. Because therapy will make you look at a situation in a different perspective. See, our thought process is limited. What therapy actually does is, well, for example, if you're coming to me, you'll have certain ideas and thoughts related to your emotion. But when I'll question you, or when we'll talk about your feelings, I might end up, most of the time, what happens is I will tell you a perspective which you have not thought of. And that will actually kind of be a solution for your issue. So, therapy is something which will not have a replacement if you're talking about self help. Self help, on the other hand, is absolutely useful because you need to be aware to question it. Because if you not understand your feelings, how will you move forward? So self-help would rather be a first step in moving into therapy rather than a whole solution to something.
I think a lot of times, and this is a quote that, I try to live by as well. It's like, you cannot really control sometimes you cannot control what's happening around you, but you can control how you feel about it, right? People need to realize that it's, okay that, somebody passes away, or it's okay that, you don't get the score you want, or it's okay that other people want different things from life, and that is why your relationship is no longer how it should be, right? So I think people just don't realize that, but it's important to feel that you can control your emotions in that moment. And that's something that I think can really, really help people if they kind of take control of that. And, we started this podcast to tell people how important, I guess, it is that you take your own stand. You take the actions, but also you take control of the emotions that come with those actions. So irrespective of how small a step is, you need to take that Kadam. You need to take that small step if you want to see the results. Without action, again, there are no results. And for somebody that's stuck at home right now, what's the best mindset they can get in, because they're not being able to be connected to other people around them or around, the world?
What kind of actions can they take?
So that's a good question, and that is like what our situations are currently. And it's absolutely normal if you're frustrated with the quarantine and lockdown right now, because I completely get it. We are not used to our normal routine. It's imposed to us to do, and it has restricted us in certain ways, in certain or many ways rather. So what you can rather do to make yourself feel better is get back to the hobby that you left off, that you did not have time for. Get back to people, connect with people, talk to your long lost friends, maybe, have a chat with them. Just rekindle, reminisce past memories, discuss future plans or make plans for future. Also, you can get back to things if you want to make it more productive. You can take up courses, you can, learn something new, maybe a new language if you'd like to, or master your work experience, do internships. There are so many options available online currently. Apart from that, you can actually use this time to connect with your family. We know how Indians are. We are not as close to our parents as compared to the Western culture. What we can at least try to do is, get close to them, help them in their household works maybe, and, try to talk to them about our feelings, be a little more comfortable, since we are adults now, we can do that. Be a little comfortable, be a little more comforting and understanding of each other's emotion. These are the few things, these are very minute things which we might think of every day, but once you start doing it, you will actually feel way better than you were, because you will, before, what will happen is you will be caught up in your thought, and you'll be caught up with the thought of not being able to do your normal things, not being able to socialize with your friends or go out, have a drink, party, or do anything which was outside of the house. So try to find things which you can possibly do inside, be it productive, be it for fun, anything. Don't let your mind control you.
From my experience, mental health issues, they have a spectrum. Like, mental health disorders are called disorders when they actually impact and disrupt your life, right? It's impacting your life. Your life is not in order. A clear example for that, what I believe, is OCD. So, difference between having an obsession and having obsessive compulsive disorder. So how can people know when they need therapy, and what other benefits can therapy provide them if they don't need it, but if they still go for it?
Okay, so therapy is a thing which people believe is only restricted to people who have a mental illness or disorder. But the truth is, you can go to therapy if you have mental blockages as well. It can be for as small of an issue as, like, for example, not being able to make your decisions clearly, or ending up making your decisions always the opposite of what you actually want it to be. Or it can be issues related to your relationship, not being able to express the love that you have for the person. It can be simple things like that. Also, disorders. For you to understand when something is not right, the basic definition that we follow for a disorder is, like, it causes disruption in your personal, occupational, and social life. These are the three areas which we function in, and all the areas, if they're affected, then you should straight away opt for a therapy. Or also, I think before therapy, there's a step: go to a psychologist and get it diagnosed first. Don't self-diagnose, because what will happen, you'll end up labeling yourself or tagging yourself in something which you are actually not going through. So it's always better to go step by step. Like, for example, we all know how fever manifests in individuals, but we still go to the doctor, right, to get it checked, go for the right treatment. That is the same thing when we're talking about therapy. Even if you know, but please consult a specialist. They are there for a reason. They will help you understand and make the steps a little bit easier. And for people who want to seek therapy, irrespective of they have disorders or not, it is going to give you a new perspective to your issues. It will make your emotions more understanding. You'll be more self-aware. You'll understand how you function in situations and how you can manage symptoms if they are related to a disorder. How can you overcome that? See, what happens in therapies is, like in medicines, there's no cure. There's no cure for fever. You only take medicines to control the symptoms of fever. That is the same thing with therapy. We will teach you. We work together. We teach you ways in which you can manage your symptoms in your day-to-day life. Because obviously therapy is not a long-term, long life plan. You'll only have maximum 12 to 15 sessions, more if needed. But on an average, you'll need 12 to 15 sessions. After that, you're on your own. So we will teach you ways in which you can do that, irrespective of you're in therapy or not. So it's much more than those therapeutic part. It's more to do with your living, the way you live your life later on as well. So you will be a more transformed person, if I have to say. If I have to put it that way, you'll be more understanding, empathetic towards yourselves and others. So, I mean, if I have to go on, I can list 100 things right now that will benefit you from therapy.
Yeah, and I've been following Tony Robbins for a while now, and I don't know if you know him. I've seen his documentary, I'm Not Your Guru, on Netflix, and he basically brings on people he's got a couple different kind of sessions that he does, right? So 3-day session, 4-day session, that kind of thing. And so there's one that's called I'm Not Your Guru, where he kind of brings on people, and there's maybe 2,000 people in a room, right? And everybody is there for a reason, because they want to, let's say, elevate their life, be happier or whatever it might be. They have some problems, and they, of course, like you said, it's like a 12 to 15 session thing. And so that is like a 5-day thing, let's say, right? So it's, what comes from that is that, you are, let's say, in front of 2,000 people, and he will randomly pick you up. Why don't you share your story? And he'll ask people, okay, out of this room, I know that according to like the average out of 2,000 people, whatever the number is, this many might be suicidal. If you're suicidal, stand up. And so everybody that stands up, he picks one or two of them, and he's like, okay, share your story. And then he'll try to help them through that story, help them through telling them, what might be the next step or next action or whatever that might be, right? So basically, maybe even trying for them to gain the skills that they might be able to help themselves with, right? So like you said, in the 12 to 15 sessions, it's not really a long-term goal, right? It's to be able to give them enough like tools to be able to use them for the future, right? So what would be, according to you, some other ways to learn to think positively?
All right. So for you to learn positively, you should read up good articles, not the ones which are cosmopolitan related. Rather, go to Google Scholar, read up research papers if you want, because that will give you more sure proof for something you can look into and follow in your life. For example, there are so many things available, so many researches available that will prove the positive effect of journaling. So you might have come across many people do that. So if you're actually doing it, do it with the right cause, do it with the, you knowing the consequences. So if you really want to apply something in your life and you don't want to opt for therapy, if that is the thing with you, please read up things which are actually authentic and not magazine cosmopolitan related, because that will end up making it a lot worse than it already is.
Right. Insecurity.
Yeah.
Exactly. You will know what the cause is. You'll know how it will manifest, and you know how the consequences will be. But
Right.
when it comes to cosmopolitan and everything, it's all glitz and glamours and nothing true.
Okay. So, Gyanada, what are some other common myths around mental health? Because I've seen that Girl Up and Gaza podcast that you did, and you were talking about some of the myths around suicide, right? So in mental health, that's maybe with recent graduates or just people overall, what are some common myths that people still believe, and what have you been debunking other than suicide, and how can one spread that awareness?
That's a very nice question. See, I would say the most common and the most famous myth, if we have to talk about, is very closely related to us Indians, and that is jo dikhta nahi wo hota nahi hai. So it's like if it's not being physically present, it's possibly not there. So most of the time, what happens in my experience and the people I've dealt with, the thing that happens is when you share it to your parents, they are not absolutely accepting what you're saying. It's more to do with, ye nahi ho sakta, this is something which cannot be for you, this is something, it's just in your head. So the acceptance of it being present is the major thing, because the myth here would be that people don't know that if it's true or not. It's absolutely true. And it's like the same thing will not be manifesting in a similar way in another person. If I have anxiety, you will not have, and you also have anxiety, both of us will not have the same kind of anxiety. So because of that reasons also, I think people are not accepting of the fact that it is something that is present. But one of them is definitely that. Other than that, I think the second most common myth is therapy is just talking. Anybody can do that. My friends can do that. I can take advice from them. But the truth is, you should never actually take advice from your friends, because of n number of reasons, and the main thing that they are biased towards you. They have an emotional connection towards you, so they would rather talk about things which you want to hear rather than something which is based on hard truth. They will not say something which can be maybe if they know you so well, they know what will offend you. So they will not end up saying that. They would rather sugarcoat it and tell you in a different way. So it can, in the long run, be harmful for you.
That's not really a good
Friends,
friend, though. That's the thing.
see,
They
that's
believe they're
again a
doing.
different topic to
Yeah.
talk about, because what happens is there are so many situations where you don't want the other person to get hurt. You must have gone through the same things. We all have friends. You must have at times lied or bent the truth in a certain way which is not harsh to you know hold on to or perceive for an individual. But the thing is that can, even though we have good intent for the person, but we never know the kind of sentences we are framing for them can be harmful in the long run. So
Hmm.
it's not about the intent, it's more to do with that you care for the person so much that you end up not telling them the harsh truths that they need to hear at that point of time. So taking advice from friends is absolutely not a good thing. So that's how things go. There is so many. These two are the main things which I like to put light on. Apart from that, I think it's, see, what happens is people firstly don't know how to share their feelings. All right, that is the main thing. And the second thing which comes with this is when you are sharing something to individuals, we don't know how to react. So if it's quite vulnerable situation, we end up being blank, and then that situation goes downward spiral because the person will think, I told the person so and so such a vulnerable thing that I've not expressed it to anybody else, but the person is giving me a blank reply. It's better that I do not talk about it. So what actually happens in this package or this situation is it's both ways. There's an issue. It's just not one thing. So stigma बहुत है, issues बहुत है, and
There's a lot. There's a lot.
there's a lot. I mean, every level has a lot of things. So it's going to be a very long time to overcome this, but let's see.
Hmm. So another problem in our society, I don't know how big it is, and maybe you can shine a light on that, but perfectionism. I think we all know a few perfectionists in our life, maybe somehow on this podcast right now. But yeah, in one of the previous episodes, we did talk about how you need to be satisfied with what you've done, but also be hungry enough for the next day. So do you believe that? And how can one find that balance between this satisfaction and hunger? Do you even tell your clients to find that balance?
Okay, so I would say that being a perfectionist is not an issue. And I think what I like to believe this motto in life is do whatever you like, do whatever you can, whatever you should, but you should at the same time know when to stop, when to pause, because
Yeah.
that is when the issue will arise. So if you're a perfectionist, good to go, but you should know when you should stop. So then there comes your part which you're asking, the hunger and achieving and being satisfied with it. See, what usually happens when somebody is a perfectionist, if you're talking about, they know their level of achievement. And when they're not able to meet it, they obviously get frustrated. And that is the thing with us as well. If we know our potential and we do not match it, we obviously get frustrated and we are always, thinking about it. That, I know that I can do much better than what I've done. So that is the main thing which is going in somebody's mind when they're trying to achieve or look for that sense of satisfaction. But the truth is that you need to set that satisfaction in a realistic level. You cannot think like, I cannot think that, I'm working 2 jobs, but the next month I can have a Lamborghini Gallardo. You cannot do that. That is not something which I, in my real life, can do it until unless I have some amazing job and amazing amount of income and things like that. We need to set everything in a more realistic way so that we are happier when we achieve them. And instead of one main thing, we should look for small goals. That is what that is what I tell my clients also to do. Instead of having one big goal, divide it into a few other small goals, so that when you reach the first small goal, you'll be happy and content. You'll be like, okay, I've done this, I can do the next thing as well. You'll
It's
not
like a
be
milestone.
disheartened. Yeah,
Yeah.
you set your milestones to make it more satisfactory. And
Right.
that way you'll also understand, you'll balance that hunger and satisfaction thing in your life.
Yeah, and then I think the destination, just becomes the journey doesn't like seem as long. It's like if you reach milestones, you kind of break that down into small different kind of chunks and bits of information and things that you can kind of grab onto
Kadams.
and then go with those. Yeah, exactly.
And not a
Funny
big
thing.
leap. So, yeah. I mean, that was the reason, I guess, for the podcast, because, last year I did have some difficulty actually thinking clearly because I was thinking about that big leap that I want to make. I couldn't make those small decisions. So that's why I started with those small steps. I started making those kadams, any steps that I could, and actually get through it. So that's something that I did, and just wanting to share that. My experience. I didn't know how helpful was that was going to be, but clearly, I think that's something that you also tell your clients. So hopefully, our listeners do learn something.
No,
Uh,
absolutely. Thank you for sharing and letting people know, because I'm sure, see, milestone can be as small as getting up in the morning.
yeah,
So, sharing your experiences actually will definitely help somebody out there who needs to hear that. So, thanks to you for sharing and being comfortable enough to let people know what you've been through. It's the
Of
other way
course.
around here.
Thank you very much. All right, yeah. So I mean, I'm personally very interested in the psychology field as well, and I'm still trying to understand, what kind of direction I want to go with it. But I think as an industrial designer, I think of psychology as something that's a little bit more related to a lot of different things in life than just, going to a therapist or something like that, right? So basically, maybe even creating experiences and services that involve the study of psychology to create user experiences, again, that maybe increase the happiness quotient, right? So do you want to continue doing what you are doing and help people one-to-one, let's say, or do you want to explore other facets of psychology as well? And what does maybe success mean for you in that sense? And what are your goals with that? What are your goals with psychology?
Okay, so as of now, I would say I definitely want to do what I am still doing, because I like to help people irrespective of what their issues are and irrespective of what their backgrounds are, because it gives me a sense of satisfaction that, I'm being able to make a change in somebody's life. I'm able to make somebody look at their life in a different light than they used to. So that is a sense of satisfaction. It makes me really happy. And that is true that whenever the clients give their feedback, I absolutely have tears in my eyes, because I can see the emotions. I can absolutely feel that what they were feeling in the first session and what they feel by the end of it. So it acts as a positive motivation for me, that it keeps me motivated to do that again and again for as many people as I can. And if, see, as of now, I don't want to get away from what I'm doing, but if I will, it will mostly be because of the job sector. That is the only issue that I would say affects, because I'll tell you, while I was looking for a job, you go online at every places. You go at naukri.com, you go at LinkedIn, everywhere. It's kind of embarrassing and offensive that when I'm typing counseling psychologist jobs or psychologist jobs, the options are telecounselor, sales. So I mean,
Mm,
there's nothing wrong with that job, but it becomes offensive when I'm talking about psychology as a therapy. When it comes to providing therapy or services for individuals who actually have mental health issues, and it's kind of weird. So that is the only reason, if I leave this profession, it will only and only be because of not enough available infrastructure or policies or job sectors in my area. And
right.
for me, success actually means just being able to help one individual is actually success for me, because that is a very tiring thing. That is honestly a tiring thing. I will not deny the fact, because you are basically getting to know the emotions of somebody else's, and that is a lot, honestly a lot. For us it might not be, because we don't put light on that subject or on that topic a lot of the times. We'll never put our thought into our emotions, but when you actually start thinking about it, there's a lot to deal with. So helping people is something which I'll never get bored of, or I'll never be enough of, I'll never get enough of. But what you never know what the future holds.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm more of like living on today and helping near
Yeah.
future me.
Exactly. Yeah. No, going with the flow and definitely being able to help as many people as you can, and even if that means helping one person, I think that was the goal with our podcast too. Being able to make sure that at least anybody that listens to it, is being able to gain at least a little bit of that chunk of satisfaction or any help that we can provide, right? And I think your episode's going to do that as well.
So, if like Arjit wants to learn more about psychology, if anyone else listening to this podcast wants to learn about psychology, about human behavior, what kind of resources would you recommend? Because you did recommend a few, Google, I guess.
Scholar, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, what other resources would you recommend? And what are some mentalities and philosophies and some people that people can follow?
Okay. So for resources, you can definitely read on books. There are various books available on self-help as well and on more theoretical backgrounds as well. So you can refer to that if you want to read, or you can start from basics, 11th and 12th psychology book if you really want to get into the textual part of the profession. Yes, research papers are definitely there. You will get ample amount of information from that itself. So the core source for you should be research papers. Other than that, you can look up to websites like Psychology Today, or for India, there's a website called Psychologist. So you can go there and you can learn and read articles by various psychologists. They write on different various topics, n number of topics. You'll find a lot of topics there. So you can refer to those sites, those websites. You can look up to Instagram and follow authentic psychologists and authentic pages, not those which call themselves self-help thing, but actually are people from different industry and doing what they like. Rather follow people who are psychologists online. There are so many. There's Nedra Tawab there. If you might have heard about her, she is a boundary setting person. She's a boundary setting boss. So she talks about only boundaries. How can you make boundaries with your parents, with friends, with anybody in your family or in your life? And there are specific people, specific psychologists like Nedra. At the same time, there are many which will focus on a lot of areas in your life, from relationship to your defense mechanism to how your emotions will work. So look at whatever sources that pleases you, but make sure that they are authentic. Because learning is something which can be a bit tricky at times. There are so many things available, but it's always absolutely useful if you're getting it from an authentic source rather than somewhere else. Like I said,
Right.
again, don't go for cosmopolitans. Go for
Definitely.
it.
Yeah, and we'll put that those links in the description, and if you can share those and your own Instagram with the people today, that would be great. And that way everybody can reach out to you if they need help and go from there.
Yeah, so guys, you can reach out to me as well on Instagram via Amicus Therapia, or you can email us or visit our website and contact us through there. Our website is amicustherapia.com. All the links will be in the description box below. So
Definitely.
So you can reach out to me in any of the areas.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Gyanada. And like we talked about earlier too, it's about giving a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, but teaching him how to fish and he's going to be able to feed him forever. Basically getting those tools and taking those tools and using those tools in the future as well, from the 12 to 15 or whatever sessions that you take from a psychologist. So thank you so much for sharing your experience. It's been great. And we really, really think somebody's going to be able to get a lot out of this episode. So thank you again for sharing that. And we look forward to, connecting with you again. So
thank you, Arjit and Hemant, for having me as a guest for your podcast. I'm sure that somebody out there will listen to it and will find it useful and will find the guts to go for therapy and opt for actual things which will benefiting them in their lives. And you guys are doing amazing. I hope you keep doing it. Get where you want to have a studio of your own.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we hope that happens one day as well, and I honestly personally recommend therapy to everybody I meet, whether they want it or not, I think everybody just kind of needs it. So, well, anyway, this is your host, Arjit Singh.
And Hemant Bhatia.
and you've been listening to Kadam, the Small Steps podcast. If you found value in this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, let us know how we can make this better.
A traditional career is always untraditional. Thanks for listening.